I'm Ryan Newman, and since I started with Indiana Donor Network and Driven to Save Lives, I found out that some people think that they can't be an organ donor. The truth is, anyone can sign up to be an organ donor.
Anyone?
Anyone?
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. Anyone can sign up to be an organ donor. So don't count yourself out because somebody's counting on you. Go to driventosavelives.org and sign up today.
But my heart's going to you, Ryan.
Love that shirt.
Welcome to the 34 Motorsports Product Showcase. We're proud to offer the full line of Simpson Racing safety products. The Shark Speedway is a perfect brain bucket to keep your melon as safe as possible. We carry every model and size of Hans device, and these have saved countless lives. The Hybrid Pro Lite is an alternative to the Hans device and is just as effective. The DNA 3-layer suit offers maximum protection when things get hot. And hey dude, those comfy shoes won't help one bit when things go south. Keep those hands ready to work with a pair of Vortex FIA gloves meeting every current standard. From 5 to 7 points, we carry every one of the Simpson harnesses, keeping your rear end right where it should be. Keep all your gear clean and together with the helmet and FHR bag, and always be ready to hop in a race car. Visit 34motorsports.com and order today. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another night of iRacing action here on the National Racing Network, where tonight the stars and cars of the Indy Pro 2000 Championship are going to take on the road course at the Daytona International Speedway, one of the most legendary venues in all of auto racing. Should be an interesting one here tonight. We'll talk about all the storylines in just a moment, but first let me introduce myself. My name is Chris Graham. It is a pleasure to have you hanging out with us. Joining me, as always, in the booth is Mr. James Watson. And I'll tell you what, James, there's a lot of storylines here. We're down to round 11 of the championship. Championship might be decided already, but there's still the broadcast title that could be up for grabs and a lot of battling within the points as well, a little bit lower outside of number one, we'll say.
Yeah, even when the big prize is already kind of spoken for the most part, you're always going to have a bunch more battles and interesting moments that are always going to be taking place. So while we may not see a whole lot of up at the direct front, we're still going to see a lot of great battling and people trying to fight and still get everything they can.
Let's pick up the guy who is currently second in the point standings. That would be Chris Preston, sitting 116 points back of David Porcelli. It's going to take a big jump. However, David Porcelli not in tonight's race. He's counted all 8 weeks that he needs to count. So maybe doesn't necessarily have to be here in a big way, but this is possibly a door open for Chris Preston.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. Never say never. Chris could mount a crazy comeback right at the end, but he's still going to need a lot of things to go his way. But you can always be sure that Chris is going to be giving everything he's got.
Yeah, taking a look at the broadcast championship entering tonight, David Porcelli leading by 18 points over Kylo Ciacelli. However, with no Porcelli in the field, This could be a big 10 points for Kylo if he's able to pick up a win here tonight. Chris Preston is only 3 points back of Kylo for second. And in the broadcast championship, we're using the old F1 points table. Only the top 6 score, 10, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1. You got to be up at the pointy end of the field. The other really interesting thing that we're going to see here tonight, James, there are a ton of unfamiliar names in this race. The strength of field sitting at 2204. This is one of the lowest that I've seen in a very long time for the PM18s. I think that's because of the Thanksgiving holiday, but it doesn't change the fact that there's a lot of names that we're going, I don't know this guy, and you don't necessarily know who you're going to be running around.
And I think that's not necessarily a bad thing. Seeing, so you don't really know what you're to expect from a lot of these guys, so it might spice things up. The regulars gotta know to be aware and maybe not necessarily be wary, but kind of keep in mind that you don't know what to get from them.
We talked a little bit about the point standings on the official side a little bit. Kylo Ciacelli entering the night 3rd overall in the championship, leading Division 2, but it's by less than 100 points over Carl Lemkool. We also have Dylan Vilashinsky leading Division 3. He is on the entry list for tonight. Nee Camargo leading Division 4. He's on the entry list. Ben Carswell leading Division 5 is on the entry list. Carswell, by the way, in 17th out of Division 5, which is just ridiculously impressive. Brandon McKellop leading Division 6 is 25th overall in the point standings. The SOF might not be huge, but I'll tell you what, there's a lot of talent that's going to be in this field here tonight.
Yeah, it's funny. You never really see stuff like that happens. Like, that's one of the good things about it being a single split, is you get to see those that would normally be up here battle and get to put their names into it and really get to have the advantage of getting those great points days that they might not have gotten in second split, and really just put themselves out of the ability to be caught in their division championships. Because again, we're so focused on the overall title. Well, the division championships are just as, if not even more, hotly contested.
First laps are coming in, and it's going to be Ted Burns, our winner 1 week ago with a 141.909. That is one of the fastest laps I've seen run over the last couple of days, taking a look at things. Chris Preston, second quick. He's going to be about a third of a second back. Nicholas Daly, third. Everett Paddock. And Alexander Wesley Hazelworth in the top 5. That's a name we haven't heard before, but he's entering the night number 6. With the car number 6, so the 6th highest I rating in the field. This could be a little bit interesting here.
We haven't seen him on the SWF nights, but I have raced quite a bit with him before, and he's, well, to basically put it, he knows what he's doing in this car. He is very quick, so it'll be interesting to see how he stacks up with the rest of the tops, because I've always felt racing against him that he would fare pretty well.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see here as Chris Preston coming down to complete lap number 2. Want to remind everybody, thank you very much. If you're tuned in on YouTube or on Twitch, give us a shout. Let us know where you're watching from. Get the comments in. We will be able to get them up on the air. Lap number 2 is complete for Chris Preston. Let's take a look. We'll pick up Justin Scott, one of the newer names that we have not seen here, carrying car number 21 here this evening. Scott currently 15th on the board. Still have a handful of cars that are completing their laps. Nicholas Daly running 5th. Everett Paddock getting up to P2. Nagisa Yoshikawa rounding out the top 5, knocking Hazelworth back down to the 6th position. We'll take a look here. Pick up Mackenzie Roon out on the racetrack. Trying to take a look. There we go. Seeing Kylo Ciacelli. Lap 1 did not score. Well, that lap number 2 is not going to score for Mackenzie Roon, and the lap will not count. Neither did the first one. So that's going to be one of the cars starting from the back of the pack here. Pick up Mason Greigel in the number 19. Little yellow submarine-esque. It's almost like a Joey Logano crossover paint scheme there. I kind of like that one.
I do too. That actually looks really nice.
It's not the full yellow submarine with everything in yellow. I kind of like the red accents on that there. Nice job there, Mason, on the paint scheme. Seeing Jason Paydu also out on the racetrack as well, as we are down to 50 seconds left in qualifying. So Jason Paydu will not get a lap in the books. Ben Carswell also not getting a lap in. Neither will be Jeremy Baker. So 16 cars have taken time. Looks like we are going to have an additional 5, maybe 4, if Greigel is able to get his lap in here and have it score. Nice lap for Wes Shire. He's up inside the top 10, about 1.4 seconds back, but at 143.7 for his second lap, 143.2 on lap number 1. That's more in line with race pace. And if you think you're going to be a midfield guy, running qualifying laps at race pace is probably not the worst. Oh, look at that. Wow.
Okay.
Greigel yard sales it coming to the start-finish line. Honestly, I don't think he necessarily wanted to get a lap in the books, quite frankly. It's going to put him back towards the back of the pack. So now it is time to go racing here at the World Center of Speed, or at least the self-proclaimed World Center of Speed. Take a look here. We'll have Nicholas Daly. There we go. Still waiting on a couple of cars to drop in here, but as we see the leaders pop in, we'll get them out on the screen. Ted Burns and Everett Paddock going to occupy the front row, and a quarter of a second separating those two. Another good chance for Teddy B here. He is all the way up to 12th in points, and he's only counted 5 weeks. This could be another monster points week for Ted Burns. We'll see what he's able to do from pole position. Chris Preston and Nicholas Daly on row number 2. Row 3 will have Nagisa Yoshikawa and Alexander Wesley Hazelworth. Row 4, Carlo Ciacelli and Brian Labarge. Brian Karszewski and Wes Shire will occupy row number 5. Row 6, Dylan Vilashinsky and Nee Camargo. Row number 7, Tyler Stover out of the Carolinas. Mike Long out of New England. Row number 8, Justin Scott and Stephen Kelly. And then we get into all the cars that did not take time, including Jason Paydu and Ben Carswell, Mackenzie Roon and Mason Greigel, and Jeremy Baker will round out the field here this evening. So far, Justin Scott, Ben Carswell, Jeremy Baker are not on the grid. I wonder if Ben Carswell is going to be electing for the start from pit lane option. Possibly. Possible carnage in turn 1 is always worrisome here at Daytona.
Yeah, this has to be one of the most difficult turn 1s to deal with. It's so tight, it's so narrow, and you're slowing down from such a high rate of speed. If one person spins, we're all doomed.
Yeah. This one could be interesting. To answer the question from 90210, does this series have the bring out the flag, lose your lap rule? Yes, it does. If you get an off track, a 0x for wall contact, whatever it may be, it invalidates the lap. You are in a world of hurt, quite frankly. Get the comment from Porcelli Racing. David, he's watching, but not in attendance tonight. 90210 saying, Indy Road Course would like a word about tight turn 1. I didn't say turn 1 was tight.
That is fair.
You can go too wide through turn 1 at Indy. Or, excuse me, here at Daytona. The problem is you get to turn 2 very quickly, and that snaps back the other direction, and it's generally not good. Fields off the final corner. NASCAR turn 4 for those of you that like to watch the regular televisions. Fields coming to the green, as always. Start of this one, going to be all yours. Oh, big dive bomb up the middle. Kylo Ciacelli contacts Ciacelli, goes around. That was off of Alexander Wesley Hazelworth. Kylo around to the back of the pack, but the car was airborne. Not the way Kylo Ciacelli wanted to start the race here this evening.
Yeah, once I saw the 3 wide, I knew that was not ending well.
Porcelli saying, who needs to boost SOFs when I've got the points? I guess. It's one way to look at it. So the very top, the pointy end of the field, looks like they're behaving themselves. Let's slide back here, pick up Hazelworth and Labarge. They're going to be nose to tail. Labarge in the NASA colors. West Shire battling, I'm not sure who that's with. Somebody in a Marlboro. Like an old McLaren paint scheme here. That's going to be Stephen Kelly in the 13. Possible trouble for Hazelworth here as he is way up on the outside, and we've got a battle for the race lead heating up with 1 lap in the books. Ted Burns, Chris Preston battling. Preston going to have to look the outside through 1. One of the things we saw a good bit of in both in practice and in the prior race, James, exiting turn 2, you get a little bit of dirt tracking going on, absolutely kills the momentum of a lap.
It really does, and it's so hard because you deal with that a lot here because of the low downforce you have to run and the fact that this car is so low downforce to begin with. It's so easy to light up the rear. You need severe throttle modulation to really get through this track well and to not kill your runs.
Something we're going to keep an eye on here. The draft is absolutely ridiculous. I watched Kylo Ciacelli catch Chris Preston from about 0.8 of a second back from entering NASCAR turn 1. By the time they got to the bus stop, the gap had shrunk down significantly. We're not necessarily seeing that out of Preston and Burns, but he did cut about 0.3 of a second off in that set of corners. Outside of the bus stop here, James, you're full throttle for about, 80% of this lap?
You are, and this car pretty well tops out. So we say this a lot in this series with this car a lot, but this is a very draft locked race.
Yeah.
if I was Chris, I'd try to wait a little bit, try to see if you can't get you and Ted away from Everett, settle it amongst yourselves, because they are close to being out of draft range.
Yeah, if the two of them can get hooked up, they can pull away from Everett Paddock. However, sitting where they are right now, that gap is closing. It's down to 0.7 of a second, and it's only a half second back to Nicholas Daly, who just set the fastest lap of the race at a 1:42.289. They're not far off of where they ran in qualifying, and quite frankly, they're probably going to stay there this entire race. Tire fall off is not an issue. Fuel level is only going to burn off and make the car lighter and a little bit faster.
Yeah, we're going to see some insane lap times. I wager we might see a few laps that will be faster than the qualifying times when the tires get up to temp and the fuel starts to burn off more.
Seeing possibly a little bit of patience here out of Chris Preston early in this race. One, he needs as many points as he can possibly get. But the other thing is, if you don't battle with Ted Burns, you kind of just stay tucked in behind him. Maybe you can break away like you talked about, James. It's not a guarantee that it's going to happen, but it's better than the alternative of running side by side and packing up 6 or 8 cars.
Yeah, but at this point, unless Everett makes a pretty decent mistake, I'm pretty sure that this is about a 3-car battle.
Yeah, we'll see if Nicholas Daly's going to be able to get caught up. A little bit of a move up the outside from Chris Preston. He's going to tuck right back in line. Just different ways of entering turn number 1 is what it looks like out of these two. A little bit of an issue deeper in the pack. Nick Camargo, Brian Labarge having an issue. Let's see what happened here into... Oh, oof. Some contact. Hard hit for Nick Camargo. Labarge getting off track as well. Tough break for Nick Camargo. Looks like that will be the end of the night for Nick Camargo as he has to take the tow back into the pit area. Seeing the question here with from 90210, came in a little bit earlier. What are the odds of Danny Rick doing a Red Bull-sponsored Project 91 car this year?
I'm hoping it's a very high chance from a personal standpoint.
I would love to see it. I've Danny Rick showing up in a NASCAR paddock would be absolutely epic. I just don't see it happening. But that's just me. It would take some contract niceties. Red Bull did not necessarily leave NASCAR on the best of terms. I don't know that they're going to want to let their reserve driver go play. Well, with that being said, maybe, but man, such a big tow for Chris Preston through NASCAR 3 and 4. In fact, a bigger tow for Everett Paddock. This is where things get interesting, James, because one of the things that we saw in practice was if you were the second car in line and you pulled out, if the third guy in line didn't go with you, you were a sitting duck and you're going to get freight trained. It really is going to take second and third to pull out and make the move if you want to go that route. I mean, it's possible to make a pass by yourself, but you really got to time it up well.
Yeah, coming out of the bus stop on the last lap, that is going to be incredibly fascinating. Does Everett stay put? Does Everett jump out with Chris and then jump on Chris to make it 3 wide? Do they even make it that far?
Chris Preston passed Kylo Ciacelli for the win in the 7:15 race, and he didn't start the pass until the middle of 3 and 4. Cleared him to the outside. Preston went diving down for the apron coming to the line, and it was only about a foot or two that separated them at the line. But you can make the pass very late in the lap. Interesting to see if any of the drivers in the race are listening to the broadcast or what Chris Preston maybe took from that he's kind of keeping in his back pocket at this point.
Yeah, I imagine he took a few notebooks worth of notes with that, and it might just serve him pretty well tonight.
Everett Paddock getting very close to Chris Preston off of NASCAR 4. These top 3 are playing, well, they're about a tenth or so apart as Paddock looks outside, and he may get the pass completed at the line. He will score that lap for Everett Paddock. So there you go. You saw it. You can make the pass outside. You just got to commit to it and really time it. That's something Patrick Byrne and I have talked about a lot with the next-gen car. Managing the energy. That's almost like what's coming into play here. You have to know when you actually have the momentum to make that pass.
Yeah, this just adds a whole new wrinkle into it. Like, now you have a whole lot more to figure out and factor in.
Ooh. Getting real tight there between Paddock and Preston in the battle for third. Nicholas Daly holding on to fourth, about 1 1/4 seconds back. It's another 2 seconds or so back to Nagisa Yoshikawa running in the 5th position. Everybody else on the racetrack separated by a half second or more. So we'll keep things kind of hanging out up here at the front. Take a look. Let's go on board here with Chris Preston. And James, this is what you were talking about. You're basically out of gear at this point. Hearing a little bit of lift out of Preston, there he is on the chip the entire way down the front straightaway.
Yeah, and I don't know if be curious to see Everett's on board and see if he was letting off it at all, because he did not suck up to Ted as I was expecting he would.
Well, ask and you shall receive. We'll go on board with Everett Paddock as they're down through the first of the hairpins. Joking with Wes Shire in the pre-race. Daytona is blast, hairpin, big blast to the bus stop.
And then blast some more. So anyways, I just started blasting.
There's a Biggie versus Tupac joke to be made there somewhere, and it's just not coming to me at the moment. I'll tell you what, James, what's really interesting is watching that particular shot, how late you can get on the brakes in this car to get through the bus stop. It's not quite Formula One levels of, oh my God, I can stop right now. But it's pretty crazy how deep you can drive it in before you have to get on the brakes in these PM18s.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely slinging it through there. But it's stressful because you know how important that is to your run. So the anxiety going through that is through the roof, because if you mess up just once, that might screw your race, because that might be enough to cost you the draft.
Well, and I'll tell you what, James, to your point about Everett possibly backing off, I'm not so sure that he hasn't been. Not wanting to make the run, because the gap now to Nicholas Daly from Everett Paddock, 1.8 seconds. It's 2.25 seconds to the race leader. They've got Nicholas Daly out of draft range at this point. If they can behave themselves, it's a 3-horse race.
Yep. But the big thing is not making that mistake. The mistakes...
Oh, Paddock's in the wall! Unforced error, Everett Paddock. He's in the fence.
So about not making those mistakes.
Oh my goodness. What in the world happened to Everett Paddock? Let's take a look here from the overhead. Man, he just missed the braking point. Missed it by a wide margin.
I wonder, because I thought I saw a little bit of tire smoke from Ted. I wonder if Ted locked up a bit and it might have spooked Everett and just went into the instant lockup. This car is very weird under braking. Let's see here.
I don't know.
I would need to see the chopper angle again.
Yeah,
but
let's take a look here.
This car is weird. At least when I drive it, it's weird under braking. No, nothing from Ted. Yeah, I think Everett just carried a lot more speed than he was expecting.
Yeah,
but
absolutely unforced error from Everett Paddock.
It's weird when you're going through. If you hit the brakes too hard, too quickly, it goes into like an instant death lockup. You could be putting in less brake pressure than you would normally, and it would still go into instant lockup if you hit it too hard, too quick. It is the weirdest thing and the most annoying thing about this car on a personal level. So that is the only thing I can figure that happened, because that is so not expected. Like, of all the people to do that, I would not have expected it to happen to Everett. Yeah.
Neat Camargo checking in saying this is a cursed track. You know what? Maybe it's a familiarity breeds complacency. Like, I mean, everybody on the iRacing platform has turned a lot of laps here at this racetrack. It's so easy to make that unforced error with just a split-second mental lapse. And like you said, James, once you get into the lockup, there's really nothing you can do to save it other than get off the brakes, back to the throttle, and then right back to the brakes again to try to settle the car down.
Yeah, and especially at this track, what I was saying before Everett unfortunately committed die, mistakes here are times 1,000 because you don't have that many corners and you have so many straightaways that one small mistake could cost you a second because you're having that mistake coming onto a long straightaway, and just losing a couple miles an hour for that prolonged stretch will cost you so much time compared to those around you who do hit it right and are able to carry more speed off.
Yeah, let's pick up the comment here from David Porcelli. Oof, that's really much easier to do than it seems.
Yep.
I mean, it's the tiniest of mistakes, but good Lord. And that's something that Daytona is very almost street course-esque in that respect. Outside of the NASCAR corners that are very wide with a lot of grass on the inside, there's not really a lot of runoff at this place. If you miss a corner, it's going to have a big impact. Even if you overshoot turn 1, turn 2, it kicks you off into the grass. It's as soon as you get back to the asphalt, it's spitting you right into the pit wall.
Yeah, if that wall is just angled up just a little more, Everett is okay. He loses a lot of time and loses second, but he's still in the race. But because it juts out where it does, he just barely stuffed it at the far edge, and it's race over.
Well, let's see. Let's take a look back here a little bit deeper in the field. Stephen Kelly battling with Tyler Stover. Kelly in the old McLaren F1 livery. I'm not entirely sure I'm allowed to say the name of the sponsor, so we'll just kind of leave it at that. But running against Tyler Stover, that gap has started to open up a little bit. How about this one, James? Oh,
That was close.
Kylo Ciacelli was last in turn 3 of lap 1. He's back up to position number 7, battling with Brian Karszewski and Wes Shire.
Yeah, this is a heck of a comeback. He was facing the wrong way at the first horseshoe, and now he's not within striking distance of a top 5 with the distance, but he's technically within striking distance of a top 5.
Well, one more mistake out of somebody ahead of him, and Kylo Ciacelli could be in the top 5 as he looks outside of Karszewski down the back straightaway. It may take Karszewski backing off a little bit, and he does. Karszewski on the brakes just a touch early, allows Kylo Ciacelli to come through. Did not open the door for Wes Shire. Yeah, the last comment on the Everett Paddock incident here from David Porcelli. The crown in the road plus the turn is off camber, and that wall comes up really quickly.
Yeah, probably by the time he knew... That all happened so fast. By the time he knew what was going on, it was too late.
Little bit of a slide wide for Karszewski. That's going to allow Shire to come through. Put Wes up to position number 7. Now he's going to try to chase down Kylo Ciacelli. Stover and Kelly continuing their battle as well. To recap the field here from the bottom up, Jeremy Baker, Justin Scott did not start this race. They will finish 20th and 21st, respectively. Need Camargo, Mason Greigel, Everett Paddock, all out of the race. They will finish 19th through 17th. Then we're up to the cars still running on the racetrack. That's going to be Ted Burns leading Chris Preston, Nicholas Daly, Nagisa Yoshikawa, Dylan Vilashinsky, the top 5. 6 through 10, Kylo Ciacelli, Wes Shire, Brian Karszewski, Stephen Kelly, and Tyler Stover. Rounding out the remaining cars on the racetrack, Ben Carswell, Jason Paydu, Michael Long, Mackenzie Roon, Alexander Wesley Hazelworth, and Brian Labarge. Battle for the lead is on once again. It's down, well, it was inside of a 10th. Immediately opens up to a half second, but man, what a great corner exit from Chris Preston. He closes it right back in. It's going to be a car length to 3. Oh, little bobble for Teddy B. Is this the opening Preston needs? Not able to immediately capitalize.
Honestly, if you're Preston, I'm just staying in the draft all the way till we're coming out of the bus stop and see if you can just slingshot past.
Yeah,
I feel like if you're the car ahead coming out of the bus stop, coming to the checkered, you are 100% a sitting duck. Now, obviously, that's very risky because this is all predicated on you not making a mistake anywhere else, especially through the bus stop. But it's the strategy with the highest percentage of working out.
I almost wonder, do you try it if you're Chris Preston? Do you try it on the white or with 2 to go? If only because Ted Burns hasn't had to deal with anybody in front of him, so he knows what the car is like with full downforce. Pulling up somebody into the bus stop with less air on your front wings, that could be a big difference maker.
Yeah, but we've seen Ted snipe right at the line how many times this season? I feel like of anyone that wouldn't be bothered with the sudden dirty air being in second after leading all race, it would be Ted.
We'll find out here shortly as we are down to 4 laps to go in the penultimate round of the Indy Pro 2000 Championship, coming to you from the Daytona International Speedway. Next week, things are back to normal for the most part. Sim Racers Club back on Wednesday night. Excuse me, Thursday night. We're back, should be back with the Ezra IndyCar Series, followed by the final round of the Indy Pro 2000 Championship. We are heading to Mosport. I love that racetrack. Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. Completely different from Daytona, but exciting in a lot of the same ways. Couple of really good passing zones. A lot of speed for these cars. Mosport's going to be a fun one to watch.
Yeah, Mosport always puts on a show. You're just on edge with all the elevation change. It's such a classic circuit.
The gap to third place Nicholas Daly is now 3.9 seconds. This is a 2-horse race. So long as they don't make a mistake. And quite frankly, if you're Daly, Yoshikawa, Vilashinsky, a podium is not out of the question here. Because if you're going to make the move, sometimes you have to get really close and maybe try to force the issue if you're Chris Preston a little bit.
Yeah, like I said, though, I don't really think you need to be aggressive here. Just stand pat and let the race come to you. But I could be wrong. I'm normally wrong.
Oh, yeah, Nick Camargo checking in. Thank you. TNT Shock Series is back on Tuesday night as well. We're taking these PM18s to the Milwaukee Mile. Oh, I can't wait. I love them at Milwaukee.
Not yeet. It's the one short track I don't like, and that's because it really does not like me.
That's a personal thing.
It is.
Similar-ish to Loudon with less banking, I think. That one is going to be a fun show. Only other cars that are remotely close to each other right now on the racetrack looks to be Wes Shire and Brian Karszewski. They're sitting about a third of a second apart. So we'll keep our eyes up here on the battle for the lead. Ooh, maybe a little bit of an off track there. At least kicking some dust up from Ted Burns that time through the bus stop. How difficult is it if you're Chris Preston and you know what hand you're going to play? How difficult is it to just sit there and be like, how many laps are left? We're not there yet.
It varies. From a personal standpoint, I default to strategies like this, not being too aggressive, letting things come to you, picking up what's left. So I can do it pretty easily, but knowing someone like Chris who's always giving it his all every lap, this is excruciating.
One more coming up here we'll tell you about. It will not be on the air because I will be driving in it. The TNT Special Event Series is coming back. This time it will be, I believe, a return of Coke and a Smile. Coke and a Smile 3, I think?
Yes, we've done this 3 times.
I can't believe we're already on year 3 of this. Heading off to iRacing Super Speedway with a 5-class race? Everything from, what is it? The Indy car down to the Silver Crown car? So you're talking like 120 mile an hour speed difference?
Well, the difference from the Crown to the Indy car and the IR18 isn't the problem. It's from those cars down to the PM18 is going to be the interesting thing. Now, the PM18 usually hangs out on the apron, and so that shouldn't be too much of an issue. Although, if you remember the very first Coke and a Smile, it very much was an issue.
White flag is out, 1 lap to go. If you want to learn how to run in that race, shoot us a message in the comments. You can also email TNT@nationalracingnetwork.com. We'll get you all the info. White flag is out, 1 to go. Where does Chris Preston make the move? The comment from David Porcelli. I swear I'm not frantically plugging in all the points with drops. Won't be here next week. I'm racing an FRS at COTA in an 8-hour Enduro. Oh, this could get spicy. Chris Preston, if you're listening, you may have a shot. But you're going to have to get around Ted Burns to do it. And quite frankly, you're going to need a better strength of field next week as well. Heading out onto the banking for the final time. The gap sitting right now at half a second. Chris Preston will make that up by the time they get to the bus stop. The question is, can he get the momentum up? And this is, I think, brilliant on Preston's part. You don't want to be there at the bus stop. You want to be making up the time coming out of the bus stop.
Exactly. Ooh, I don't think Ted was the tidiest through there.
This is going to be tight. The gap now down to a third of a second, and it's closing. Off of NASCAR 4 for the final time. Here comes Preston. Burns going to hold the inside. Preston's on the apron. Drag race to the line. Who's it going to be? Oh my goodness. Ted Burns by 2/100ths of a second.
Wow.
What a finish. Chris Preston gave it everything he possibly could, but it's ultimately just barely not enough. Ted Burns picks up the win, and quite frankly, a win that may have locked up the championship for David Porcelli. My goodness, what a finish here at Daytona. Let's take a look at that one again, and we'll give it to you from the overhead. See how quick the trigger finger is here. Yeah, we'll call it a tire and a front wing at the line. My goodness. Great finish to the Indy Pro 2000 Championship. As always, James, this race delivers.
Oh, man, I knew this was going to be a good one. I knew we were in for a treat. Wow.
So Ted Burns burning them down here, making that race car look all nice and junked up after taking it to victory lane. And let's take a look at your final race results. Burns the winner by 13 1/1000ths of a second over Chris Preston. Nicholas Daly, 5.6 seconds back in third. A nice run from Daly. Ultimately just not able to keep pace, especially after that early incident where Everett Paddock crashed out. That kind of opened up the gap in a big way. Nagisa Yoshikawa, Dylan Vilashinsky rounding out your top 5. 6 through 10, Kylo Ciacelli, Wes Shire, Brian Karszewski, Stephen Kelly, and Tyler Stover. Show you back through the rest of the field here. Jason Padu, Mike Long, Mackenzie Roon, Alexander Hazelworth, Brian Labarge back through 15th. Ben Carswell, Everett Paddock, Mason Greigel, Nia Camargo, Justin Scott, and Jeremy Baker will round out the field here this evening. Let's see who we have. Well, we've got our race winner in the booth, so we'll get the cameras all queued up here, and let's get ready to talk to our race winner, Mr. Ted Burns. Oh my goodness, Teddy B, I'll tell you what, man. You have Chris Preston sitting there filling your mirrors the whole time. You know what's coming on the last lap. What are your thoughts there? Just hold the line, or talk us through it, because fantastic drive tonight.
Thank you. It was, Daytona is a pretty easy track because it's so wide open, but it was hard to be mistake-free, especially with Chris that close behind. And all race, I knew it was really hard from some races earlier in the week to be able to pass by the line if you had a decent run out of the bus stop. But I kept thinking in my head, I was like, the only way he can pass me is if he goes to the inside. And that's what he did there at the end. And I kept looking sideways, like, I don't know if he's there yet. He kept trying harder. And so, just keep it straight. And somehow pulled that off. It was close, though.
13 1/1000ths at the line. Probably closer than you would have liked it to have been. But I'll tell you what, man, you're now starting to really climb your way up the point standings here. This will be the 6th week you've counted. 6 wins to go with 7 top 5 finishes in 8 starts entering the night. Could you make a run at like the top 3 or 4 in points here? I mean, it may be a little bit of an ask, but at the rate you're winning races, pretty insane.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that back a couple of weeks ago in the broadcast interview. If I keep winning the strength of fields, maybe I have a shot at the at the top 5. So it's looking like it. I think last week kind of really hurt me wrecking out of the lead at Iowa. That was a bit embarrassing. So nice to have some redemption this week after that.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're looking at some of the numbers here. You're closing things up in a big way in the broadcast series championship as well. This is going to be a fun one to watch. What are you thinking as we head to Most Sport next week? I don't think 2 places could be more different than Daytona and Most Sport.
Yeah, I mean, here it's all trimmed out, fast as can be. In Mossport, it's going to be all the downforce, and it's such a fun track. It's such high commitment, so I think it could turn out for some really good racing. I'm really looking forward to it.
All right, brother. Well, before we let you go here, first off, happy Thanksgiving. Give your best, or our best, to the family and all. And before we let you go, get all the sponsor plugs and thank yous in.
Yeah, for sure. Got to thank Downforce Racing. I mean, we had a fast setup this week. We got 2 cars up here on the podium. I knew Carl would have been up here too. He actually beat me earlier in the week, so I know he was fast, but he's already home with his family. So shout out to Carl at home and the rest of the Downforce Racing team. Thanks to you guys for putting on a great broadcast. Look forward to going back and watching it, and happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there.
All right, buddy. Well, thank you much. We appreciate you checking in with us here. And man alive, let's get the other half of this conversation out of the way here. Chris Preston, man, I'll tell you what, the drive was really good tonight between Everett having his issue right in front of you, keeping tabs with the race leader. There was a lot to be said for how you drove that race and ultimately coming up 13,000 short.
Yeah, I knew what my move had to be. I think I heard you guys even mention during the broadcast about Kylo and my race at 7:15, and we had basically practiced the whole race, how to win, how to beat each other to the line, because, no offense to anyone else in that race, but we won it by a minute, so we had some time to spare. And we had kind of concluded that the run out of the bus stop was it. We had even figured out the gap that it had to be, and unfortunately I had to double clutch the gas coming out of the bus stop, and that cost me just a little bit. But at the same time, I caught Ted right where I wanted to catch him to pull that inside move. I had thought about trying that earlier today, but thought I didn't want to kill Kylo. So that was just something I was going to save for this race, and it almost paid off. Ted's obviously really fast, and he got a really good run out of the bus stop, which is what ultimately messed with my plans. But I'm happy with P2, and especially with Everett unfortunately locking up, and I think he hit the wall if I remember correctly. And David not being here this week, that's still great points for me.
Yeah, it was a very good points night. We're looking to see if the update has happened yet. It hasn't hit yet, but it's going to be close here with David not being here. How much do you have to push? I mean, obviously you need a win next week, and we've already heard in the comments, David will not be here at Most Sports. So this really is a shot that if you're going to give it everything, you got to give it the beans, man.
Yeah, Kyle and I have a running spreadsheet of points, and or at least I kind of play around with it to see what I need every week. And I think my last calculation was with my 1 week on hand, I'd need about 210 points, which would equate a win of a higher soft than 2,200. So with David not being here to lift this off, and especially with the races not splitting, and unfortunately, as much as I love Mossport, it's one of my favorite tracks in iRacing. It wasn't that popular last time we came here, and I don't know if we'll quite have the, 3,500 to 4K soft that I need. But, I'm still going to show up and try to win because I absolutely love that track, and I have a pole position to defend.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing it next week, Chris. Congratulations on the runner-up finish here tonight. And before we let you go, get all those sponsor plugs and thank yous taken care of.
Of course, I got to thank Team Watson Racing, Limo Boys Racing, and our sponsor to Choco Farms, and of course you guys for this fantastic broadcast every week.
All right, bud. Well, thank you much. We appreciate you hanging out here with us, and happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. I think you're from north of the border.
So I was about to say, Thanksgiving was last month. I don't know what you're talking about, Chris.
So, yes. Yes, the probably correct date of Thanksgiving was last month for you Canucks. But all the best to you and yours, Chris. Thank you much. We appreciate you checking in with us here. And actually, somebody else that I don't think will be celebrating Thanksgiving tomorrow, Nicholas Daly, running in the third position here tonight. Pretty sure from UK and Ireland region here on iRacing. But, man, I'll tell you what. This was a good run for you. Ultimately, I think Everett having his issue kind of got you backed up just enough that the draft was just out of range, and then it was a matter of cruising.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a lonely race after that. But do you say UK? I'm from Texas.
Oh, well, okay. Then happy Thanksgiving to you. We have a couple of guys from UK and Ireland in here, and they don't do Thanksgiving tomorrow. So anyway,
yeah.
Talk us through the night here. How do you kind of manage the expectation when you can see the guys in front of you, but you can't necessarily catch them? You got nobody behind you. It's got to be mentally taxing a little bit just to not make a mistake.
Yeah, I mean, Daytona's a pretty fun track if you're racing other people, but if you're out there all by yourself, it gets pretty boring just hot lapping. Yeah, there wasn't much I could do. I was lapping all right. It was maybe like 2 to 3 tenths slower than Ted out front, so I was just slowly dropping back. So yeah, just kept it clean and knew it was a solid P3 there after Everett had that unfortunate crash.
Well, I'll tell you what, nice run tonight. Ultimately, it's about being clean and being there at the end. You were able to do that, pick up a nice third-place finish here tonight. So before we let you go, Nicholas, get all the any sponsor plugs, shout-outs, and thank yous you want to get taken care of.
Yeah, huge thanks to Ted for putting together a great setup, and congrats to him for the win. He had really good pace, especially in qualifying. Thank you guys for putting on a great broadcast. Thanks.
All right, bud. Well, we appreciate it, and happy Thanksgiving to you and your family, since I'm screwing you up with other people. Man, I'll tell you what, James, that was that race was interesting. We kind of got what we expected at the front of the field. Obviously, not Everett Paddock binning it. That's something you never expect. But outside of that, guys were close. We had a shot at the pass for the lead on the last corner. You can't ask for much more than that.
Yeah, no. For what this race was, it was really entertaining. A whole lot of stuff that we did not predict, and you can't ask for much more.
Yeah, that's right. We are going to take off out of here as well, and hopefully enjoy the Thanksgiving holiday with our families. We really are thankful for everybody that hangs out with us and watches us do the pretend race cars thing. There's a whole lot coming up from the National Racing Network in 2023. We'll tell you more about that as the year kind of comes to a close. But until Tuesday night with the TNT Shock Series, for James Watson and everybody here at the National Racing Network that makes these shows happen, my name is Chris Graham. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We will talk to you all soon. Have a good night, everybody.